It was the third straight week of losses for the indices, and in fact, if you look at the last few months, it's been the biggest weekly drop in 2012. So it's a week which showed a lot of losses. Worst week for the market since December 18th, and lots more that can be spoken about this week in terms of individual movers as well. Lots of results, and we'll analyze all of those in greater detail. But just get you the weekly highlights, the BSE mid cap and the BSE small cap spaces as well, 2.5% and 3% down respectively. But more importantly, aside of what happened to the headline numbers, what happened to a lot of individual stocks is fairly important. Look at Coal India, for example. Look at what happened to an L&T. Look at what happened to some of the capital good names, some of the banking names, and the way they corrected this week. Well, left a lot to be desired. Coal India, for example, corrected almost 5% in this week gone by. So it hasn't been a good week for a lot of heavyweights. Sure enough, some pharma names, some FMCG names sustained momentum and gained quite a bit, but a lot of losers in trade. The infra space was wiped out. If IRB continued the kind of losses that it has had ever since the news came out and cracked another 15%, GVK Power, after the numbers came out, had a disastrous last 3 days in the week gone by. So that was amongst the top losers, and not that the IVR sales and the Nagarjuna Constructions of the world were left behind. So these stocks corrected quite a bit in trade too. What had a bit of an indifferent week, corrected a bit and then recovered quite smartly, was a Jubilant FoodWorks. So it just showed that if you give a good set of numbers and the outlook ahead seems to be positive, never mind the fact that you may be expensive in valuations, but the stocks tend to rebound quite smartly. Jubilant FoodWorks, a case in point, doing fairly well for itself in this trade. So all in all, an action-packed week. The IP data came out as well, but lots more to talk about. And to do that, we have our two experts to give us a sense of how the charts are shaping up and what you as a trader and an investor should do next week. Ashwini Gujral and Sandeep Wagle join us. Gentlemen, evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Ashwini, start off with you. What do you make of the week gone by? Because it seemed like it seemed like a market which looked like a sell on every possible rally, and that happened twice in this week, which is quite a bit of recurrence. The question mark really is, from the levels that we are at around the 1400 mark, or maybe a couple of few points over that, you see that next week we are headed for lower levels?
Well, certainly not higher levels, but given that you had two bad weeks from 5300 down to 1400, you could have a few sideways type of volatile days like you had one today, where you'll have sharp intraday rallies only to get sold into, and once the day is over, you won't have gained or lost much. But I can't see great buying coming back and large pullback rallies happening, because it's a very strong downtrend. And the great property of a strong trend is that on every little rally, on every intraday bounce, it gets sold into. Similarly, for a strong uptrend, you would have seen that in strong uptrends, any gap down or any intraday bounce gets sold into. So the similar action is now going to happen on the downside, and there are stocks which are still need to be sold, like all the expensive pharmas or consumption stories. There is a pocket which hasn't really faced the brunt. So it's not like everything is sold off and everything is hanging at support. So the others would go sideways, while some of these stocks would start falling now.
Sandeep, how would you trade on the index, assuming that Monday morning we pretty much open at the kind of levels that we've closed at on Friday evening? Would you initiate a short? Would you believe that the markets are headed lower?
Neeraj, the Nifty has fallen from a high of 52.79, 52.88 days back, and we have almost had about 350 point downfall, 300 point downfall. So to go short at this level becomes a little difficult, but I reckon I would go short at a little higher levels, though the view is absolutely bearish. But one side, the markets never tend to go one side. I mean, I don't see that happening. I mean, I would be comfortable going short at a Nifty level of 5,000 to 5,020, so on and so forth. That is the ideal level to short. I don't want to short nearer 4,900, where 4,880 there is a support, and from where the Nifty can bounce back. So becomes a little difficult to trade into the Nifty. I mean, I would rather find stocks where the patterns are clear, and that would be a better idea.
Ashwini, what do you do here? An L&T, a BHEL, possibly I'll throw in even a Syntex out there.
Well, Syntex is quite weak, and on any kind of rallies, all of these three stocks can be sold into. BHEL, Larsen have been moving sideways for some time, but a pullback in any kind of trend when it happens can either be against the trend or it can just be a sideways pullback. So no strength in either of these stocks, and still probably another 10 to 15% downside. Larsen can easily go closer to 1,000, 1,030. BHEL, chances are 185, 190 will come in. When that will happen, time will tell, but clearly these are not stocks which are showing any kind of strength.
Okay, since we're talking of cap goods and power and related stocks, one of the top losers was Coal India this week, 4.5%. Mind you, the coal ministry report suggests that they are supporting the review of the new FSAs, and the power producers saying that the new FSAs have escape clauses, which is not fair. So something on that effect could happen, and Coal India remained under pressure the whole of this week. Sandeep, heavyweight, 4.5% off this week. What does Coal India do next week?
Well, Neeraj, Coal India is clearly a candidate for shorting or even selling your deliveries. Yesterday at around 3:30, 3:32, over the last 2 days, we have advised our clients to book out of it and go short. Now, some trading clients have taken profits today, but I sense that it can go down to 295, 290 or the likes. So if you have sold your delivery, I think that is a level, a strong support area is around 290. So nearer which I would think of buying it back. So a very clear 10% move downside, even from current levels of 315, you are getting a 5-6% trading move downside. So I think every bit of a up move one should sell into.
It opens at around 620 on Monday morning. Is your view still bearish on JSW? Would you still initiate short trades?
I would think so. In any case, it wasn't a very strong stock. And once you have, these inquiries, etc., things tend to move lower rather than higher. So chances are that it's now going to start drifting lower, and first target could be closer to 585, 590. It will have trouble crossing 650 now.
JP Associates, no different. The high HP court imposed a 100 crore or 1,000 crore penalty actually on that one. The penalty was setting up a plant fraudulently and has directed JP to dismantle the plant in 3 months. The stock cracked quite a bit this week. Sandeep, what do you do with JP Associates come Monday morning?
I would say around a level of 65 to 66. Currently it is closed at 63 if I am correct. I would look at a shorting opportunity. And I think the bottom of 54, 55 which it made a few months back, I think that will certainly be tested.
Ashwini, what do you do with an IRB infra?
Again, had a sharp decline, moved sideways for 3 or 4 days, then started declining again. This sort of stock, only time will tell where the bottom is. The next support here could be closer to, 85, 90.
Sandeep, you tracked TTK Prestige very closely. You had a sell call as well on that one. After the correction that we've seen, Monday morning, would you still be bearish? Do you think it can go down further?
Yes. At the 3100, 3050 levels, we had talked of a 2800 target, and we have asked people to even sell their investments and buy back at lower levels. And after seeing today's pattern, the weekly pattern, it's given a clear trend line breakdown. So I would talk of a target of 2650. So at a current level of 2900, if it moves up 50, 70, 80 points, it still makes a case for a 10 to 12% downside. So there is a trading move as well as one can sell your stock and buy it back 10%. That would also make sense.
Okay, get out of your cash positions as well as what Sandeep Wagle is saying. A stock that did well in Friday's session at least, Ashwini, is SKS Microfinance. After a long time, some positive news. But do you think the news and the trend is good enough to take it higher from the 97, 98 kind of levels that it closed on Friday?
Well, If something's fallen from 1500 to $100, there should be a good reason. And all these, story stocks, MFI, etc., every other day they'll have problems with regulators, etc. I mean, these are things which can't really be, modeled into stock price. So I wouldn't really worry about it. It's a, pullback. Maybe it'll end $20 higher. I wouldn't get into the stock.
Sandeep, the other set of stocks, we're talking about gainers, the other set of stocks which held out relatively well were the oil marketing companies, with BPCL, of course, topping the chart, so to say, but HP and IOC also doing their bit, so didn't fall as much if you look at what the market did. So relative outperformance. What do you do here? Is there a trade on the upside or maybe even on the downside?
Not on the downside with the way the crude is reacting. And if there is a trade on the upside, it is only in BPCL. I don't see strength. I see more of sluggishness in HPCL and IOC. Not to say they are weak. I won't trade. I won't short them also. But if I'm taking a long trade, that would be for a 4-5% upside, and that too in BPCL. Nothing beyond that. I mean, you can't talk of a 15-20% upside and talk of an investment idea over the next couple of months. I don't see that kind of a strength. 4-5% trade over the next week or two, that's quite possible.
Okay, 7% for BPCL. Very quickly before we take that break, Ashwini, the top gainer, so to say, on Friday's trade at least, Jubilant FoodWorks. It's bounced back from the lows. What do the charts suggest?
Well, it's bounced back post a correction, and in a better market, it would have been on the buy list. But in this kind of a market, stocks will find it difficult to make new highs. I would think that people who are in this, probably closer to 1200, they should take some profits off. Finally, Jubilant's turn will also come to fall, and maybe at lower levels you could consider getting into it.